Team will get. Otherwise, we'll end up like Mackenzie will be adopting our long-term plan at Christmas time. Alrighty, so we are now considering 7.14. Oh no, it's not. What number is it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's kick in. So, where did we get to, team? Obviously, we had some other considerations such as the funding for Waka Kotahi being a key one. I might pass over to the team. Yeah, Ashton, Azura, and Mark to get us up to date.
Thank you, Your Worship, particularly for the reconvening, and it gave us a few days to review the decisions on the whiteboard, noting that there was 16 of them, and also the additional one of the Waka Kotahi funding deficit that they issued to us last week. So to support you in your decision making, Azura has done a whole lot of financial modelling. Mark has helped with that, and so the team, I think, have put in a good few days to get to now, and certainly can present what they have got up to, and then you can perhaps give some guidance on where you want to go so that we can give you some sort of semi-final answers.
Sure.
I'll bring this over here.
Okay, so what you've got in front of you is essentially the whiteboard with the 16 scenarios. What we've done is go through and model each one separately, and obviously see how we can fit that into the existing financial strategy. Essentially, at the bottom, you see a little table there with the proposed increase that would be required if all that was approved in principle was to be adopted. Essentially, we can make it work, but you see on the 2027 year, we're just hitting that brink of 2.09. And this is considering the updated numbers, which NZTA have provided as well. So we feel quite confident. Andrew might want to add a couple of words around the NZTA, I'm not sure. But we have modelled the latest update, the numbers around that included within this latest modelling that we've got, and able to increase that 1% in terms of the rates, which gets us from 10.5 to 11.5%. And that is the officer recommendation, and not to touch the debt cap at this stage.
Okay, thanks. And so can we actually just grab Andrew just to talk briefly around the Waka Kotahi funding? Does that mean any changes to services, et cetera, like that? Are we comfortable? All those rural roads will be sealed by the end of the...
Yeah. Basically, Kotahi have left us with a bit of a problem, and certainly quite a significant funding gap. The end result is basically $7.5 million in a revenue gap over the first 3 years of the long-term plan. Where it goes after that, of course, is unknown, because they only approve on a 3-year basis. So it's quite a significant gap. And in a nutshell, basically, they gave us our existing program. They added in a new category and put that in there, and then they gave us inflation adjustment for the previous 3 years. So we are, in fact, not actually carrying any funding to cover inflation for the next 3 years. So it's just the same old, to be honest. There's been no change of attitude. We have looked at our budgets and made some trimming of them. We've cut back on our payment rehabilitations, and we've cut back on sealed road maintenance, also cutting back on resurfacing. So these are cuts that we believe we can make without significantly impacting the level of service. They're more of a nice to have, and certainly putting the network into a better position in the future. But for the next 3 years, we can hold it without any problems.
Questions on that? Councillor.
Sorry, Alan.
Oh, sorry, Councillor.
So can you quantify those savings, Andy, you just mentioned? So are we talking, have you, out of the, what was it, how many million were they short? 7.5. So how deeply have you cut
over the 3-year period, we cut maintenance by $1 million. And we cut pavement rehabs and resurfacing by $4.5 million. That's for those 3 years.
So basically 5.5 out of the
Yeah.
7.
Yeah. There's still a shortfall. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
That was my question.
Thank you. Councillor Piddington.
Sorry, Andrew, just for clarity, so the other 2 million sits where?
Well, that's a funding gap that we have to fill. And the only option we've really got is by funding that through rates or loan.
So
And-
at this stage, we have in the past funded about 3 million by loan for the capital programs. So we've allowed that to flow through and modelled it based on that.
So sorry, so what's the increase of rates going to be from this decision?
So effectively, from this decision overall, including all the 16 items, it's going to be a 1% increase in rates.
Thank you. Just want clarity.
It's only above this.
10.5 effectively, yes. So we're proposing to increase to 11.5.
But it does come with it is a reduced level of service at the end of the day in our roading network, isn't it?
Yes, any further cuts would significantly affect the level of service.
That central government measure of road to zero, maybe we just push that out the window. It's not achievable, is it? Sorry, yes, Pete.
Thank you, Your Worship. Andrew, do you just want to explain is it low cost, low risk component that's yet to be advised and how that's been factored in? Because this was only part of the total NZTA budget, wasn't it?
Yes. So yeah, there's the Kotahi basically advised what they indicative allocation for maintenance, and in maintenance to them it also includes renewals. Now there is also project funding, and we're expecting to hear that probably around August this year, and that covers basically low cost, low risk, which is what most of our projects are, because in Whakatahi, basically any project less than $2 million is considered a minor project. So hence just about all our projects fall into that category. So we put in quite an ambitious program for that, and I've done the analysis and looked at what are we likely to get. Most of our projects relate to road safety, and probably around about 87% of it is road safety. And that is certainly a government focus with the Road to Zero strategy. So I'm assuming that most of those projects will actually be approved. And looking at our funding requirements and what we have budgeted for, that seems to balance out quite correctly. So I don't think there's any risk in regard to the project funding. It was just the maintenance and renewals is where we came at a bit of a surprise. And that was despite all the effort we went to actually justify that funding. We spent a lot of money on data collection, data analysis, and it was all basically following the whole road efficiency group program, in which we were supposedly working in a collaborative way, but it doesn't seem to work like that. Very disappointing.
I mean, the reality is that Waka Kotahi just don't have the funding in their budget, do they? Is that's the reality of it?
It is, yeah. They have fixed buckets in which they have to fund, and they're very much a cash-based organisation.
Yeah.
And of course, they've got a walkway over the Harbour Bridge to fund it.
Wow. It's important.
Yeah,
That's a local one for you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anything else that you'd like to point out? Otherwise, team, we can just go through, probably just go back through the whiteboard one by one and effect and make sure everyone's comfortable with it still being in, and then we can, Councillor Lyon.
I'm a bit slow, sorry, Worship.
No, you're right.
I just wanted to know what the bottom line in effect means of the one pager from 221 to the red amount of 209 and 227. I mean, what's that mean in numbers of borrowed money? It's bringing it up to the threshold, but what does it mean in extra borrowing between today and 2027?
Gross debt,
Sure, yeah.
potentially, yeah.
So effectively, so the 2027 borrowings will be at 296,41165. The total $1 million borrowings, yeah, 290.
Where are we now?
And currently our starting is at 119. And these are inflated numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just asked a question.
Excuse me, Zora, can you?
Oh, councillor had a question.
Sorry, just following on, Zara, we've increased 1% for this year. On those numbers, what does it mean for the following years in a
Yes,
percentage from what we forecast and what,
So you're saying 11.5 first year, what is it? Is it
what are
still-
the following years?
Still-
yes, so following years will remain at 4.9, sorry, yeah.
So they remain at 4.9.
We will leave them at 4.9, so effectively year one raised to 11.5 and then year two onwards till 10 at 4.9.
Thank you.
Yes, Pete.
Yeah, I think one question, what does, in terms of why we go to 2.09, the total borrowing level at that year compared to what it was pre the Kotahi funding announcement? I think there's a question. Yeah, yeah, so we're topping out at 290 odd now. What would we have topped out at?
Yep, I can get that up in a second.
It's how that 1% falls, isn't it? Because it's going to increase the rural and commercial sector.
Yeah. Do not, yeah.
It's inflated, I think, Richard. It's an inflated number.
I know you're right.
So our
Yeah.
total net borrowings was at 255 at the highest. Sorry, 256. And that was pre all of the changes. So the way that we have modeled it, though, we have included all 16 in this and the NZTA.
Yeah, you had cash reserves as well. That's, yeah, but that's net debt. Total net, that's what you're saying, 255. Did you say, excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yes, yes.
So did you say net debt
Net
255?
debt 256. Mel.
256, and the recast position you said was 290.
290, that's gross debt. I will just give you the net debt
Yeah, we
figure
need the net
very
debt
shortly.
position, yeah.
$253.
So, oh, yes, still close to there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So 2027
Yeah, go for it.
net debt 253. Including the latest updates.
and through you, your worship, the reason that debt has dropped a bit is because we can borrow at up to 2.1 times. Now, although we're increasing our rates by 1%, that's less than the Kotahi funding shortfall. So that's why our borrowing capacity has decreased, because actually our revenue has decreased a bit as well. Happy to, it's quite a layered sort of a piece of financial strategy, so happy to go through some questions, but essentially our net borrowings have dropped a bit because we don't have as much revenue, so we can't borrow quite as much. So that's the effect of it, as it's down by a few $1 million.
Is everyone comfortable with that? It's quite key that we're all good. Yeah. Just want to get the questions out now. Okay, cool. So anything, team, that you'd like to add before we just go back through and reconfirm the projects? Thanks, Andrew, for that. Welcome back, Ashley.
I guess from a financial modelling perspective, I just want to add that you can see the current debt limit is pretty much at the brink of the financial strategy we did set earlier. So any other changes to this will mean that we would have to cut extra or take things out going forward. Just something to keep in mind over the next, before we do adopt next course, couple of weeks.
Cool. Otherwise, what we might do is just go through whiteboard again and just make sure everyone's comfortable with what we've got up there. And then we can go to the hard decisions. Everyone comfortable with that? Yeah, just raise a hand or push a button if you've got a question before that. So let's just go through. So Theatre Royal, 600K loan funding. Yep, no, that's good. So green means go, red means stop. So we'll just go through one by one. Just raise your hand. Feel free to just speak if you aren't comfortable with these. So 2, bearing in mind, you know, that where this is heading. So this is heading for 11.5, followed by 4.9 every year afterwards. So C play year 1, because I guess the other option is, do we, you know, bounce some of this and it might have an effect on year 1 or 2 or delay projects, etc. So we can look at some of those, bearing in mind they're rate funded. They probably need to be sizable in rates to have any real effect versus loan, which is going to have a smaller effect on rates. So C play, additional funding. Yeah, comfortable with that. Play strategy, 45K, rates funded, year later. So it's in the latter years, so it doesn't have a direct impact on year 1. Golf, rates, pretty small impact, thank you. Yep, keep ticking, Ash. I'll tell you, just assume a tick, otherwise I'll look at Avery. Year 4, was it? Want to move that to year 4? Okay, so that was a mover. Okay, I'm sorry, Councillor Piddington. You're right.
It's not the positioning of it at Temuka, so don't get up on that, Paddy, but I've just questioned whether aviaries are the thing going forward. A collection of birds, it's not for any scientific reason. It's just a nice to have. We have no numbers that go past it. You know, some people, we moved into Frisbee golf we never had before. I'm just questioning the strategy around replacing something just because we've had it.
Yeah. Councillor Lyon.
Thank you, Worship. Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that it doesn't have an effect on the rates. Self-funded, was it?
Sorry, which one? The loan.
The Avery.
The Avery is
Because it
loan
was funded
fund.
through the money that was appropriated for the Temuka domain, I thought. So it wouldn't have had an effect on the rates, would it?
Oh, it would have still been loan funded.
Well, it's showing 2 zeros here. What's that mean? It should mean it's funded.
I don't think the funding has changed. It would have been loan funded originally with the domain upgrade, I assume, and it's loan funded.
I mean, it's
now.
been accounted for, it might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's all very fine. I mean, look, it's a promise that's been made to the Temuka community for a long, long time. The Avery is in a shaded position, and there's an awful lot of people that are all extremely enthusiastic about the reality of it being there and taking grandchildren there for many years and be taken there as a child. But however, it's just one of those things that communities need to respond to and build. And it's a promise that was made in the domain upgrade all those years ago. and it's fulfilling that promise, Stu. I take your point, but I certainly support it staying in.
Thank you. Any other comments around? I think there's two things. Is question around, well, one, we've just upgraded the Timaru one. What is our strategy and long term around birds? Perfect. It is loan funded, so there again to have a direct effect on year one, not a major. So I think we're comfortable with that at the moment. Move now to item 6, which is Botanic Gardens, and that's in year 3 again. So not a lot of effect on year 1. Comfortable with that, team. Cybertrack, 20k, small amounts, minimal effect. Yeah, just stop me, otherwise we'll keep going through. Jordan Sculpture Garden, 50k and the 15k. Still minimal effect. Cybertrack contestable fund. You would contestable fund around cycle.
Volunteers to maintain.
It was more,
Yeah.
yeah.
With support from council, as
Yeah.
opposed to council doing it, which then you lose the volunteer.
It was, oh, no, just correction. So it's aimed at capital projects. Yeah. Yeah, so less the maintenance, more so capital, because we end up getting them vested to us and have the pleasure of looking after them forever and a day. So
Do we have money in fund for them already?
no. Oh, sorry, Councillor Booth, sorry, I was looking up.
I guess I
Yeah.
just, not to get off the subject, but that step funding, could that be an opportunity that there's
Step funding isn't for capital works.
That's not.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. No, good. So is everyone comfortable with that? Yep. Raise your, okay, so community board strategy year 1, 100k, one off. Yeah, I think we need to move on that. Anyone just. I'm the only one looking out for these wards at the moment, so. Then we go to VT events. Right. Yep.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, we can confirm what Nigel sent me was the MB funding model, which says that RTOs with a local government contribution of 500,000 to 1 million are eligible to receive up to $700,000. So that's the funding application model that MB are using. If you put in less, you get less, and for larger RTOs with a 1 million to 3 million, they can receive more and so on. So he has confirmed that's the funding criteria that MB have issued to all RTOs.
And he spoke to that as well this morning, which was helpful. So comfortable with that. That tags another 300k of funding for us. Saltwater Creek Weir rates year 1 25k. Marginal again. We actually don't have anything that are going to largely affect changes here. So Airingi Stadium moving from year 3 to year 4 to year 3. We talked about the funding impact on Tuesday and Wednesday. We're all aware of that. Questions? What do we got down the bottom here, Ash? Oh, 3 towns. Yeah. Oh, you're right. 3 towns upgrade.
3 towns upgrade, and there was a lot of debate, and then you put in year 3 plus 600,000.
Yeah.
By loan, and I think that's related to the.
Yes, strategy. Yeah. And then the bottom one is rating review. And we've
rating review, we put in 50 in year 1, in year 2, 50k for rating review.
Yep.
And then over here, a bit of clarification, I've changed this.
Oh, thank you.
This is item 16, which you already promoted, topping up the emergency response fund.
Yes, year 2.
And I believe you said 200,000 per year from year 2.
That was correct.
I simply modelled it from year 1. And given it from rates, it might have an impact on that 11.5. Just for
Okay.
objective.
Right, I will go back and check that.
Okay, that's right. So we just need to check that. It was year 2 that we agreed to, wasn't it? Yeah.
I've written year 1, but I think originally.
Yeah, conversation, it was year 2 to year 10. Yeah. That's right. We'll just check that because that could have an away effect. And so I gathering there's a pretty much a level of comfort before we go to the hard conversation. Yes, sorry.
Just for clarification, that plus 200, recognise we already put in 200 a year. Currently, that would top it up to 400, just
Yes.
so you're very
Yeah.
clear on what it is.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Look, I think that'll, you know, it will come up every other year relative to events or hopefully no events. So, Councillor Booth.
So pretty much everything we've spoken about previously, and it's not up there, is indicating a 10.5% increase based around all of those activities and things that we've got planned in our long-term plan.
Yeah.
And this here is over and above that,
Yes.
which is another 1%.
Yeah, and with the changes to the Waka Kotahi funding, so that brings us to 11.5.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And we just have to clarify the year 1 around that emergency response because that will have an effect on
So,
year.
so I
year
guess
1.
that in dollar terms, the
Got it.
the debt going from,
But it's
what
still-
currently would our debt
Won't be enough.
number
Oh,
be
net
at
debt.
present?
Would be certain net debt.
119, did you say?
I would think 50 to 60 million, but I could ask Zora to confirm the number as to what it currently is.
Yeah, and so 50, 60 million, taking this up to that debt threshold or the debt where what we've spoken about, the projects in between there, if you broke that down, would that be, there's a lot of water in there, there's a lot of, that would include all the downlands, the
Yes.
the pipelines,
Yeah, renewals. Yeah.
the heritage,
Yes.
the heritage hub, the Argan Tyre.
Yes, there's some debt funding for this, some debt funding.
It's just a large capital works program, basically.
Which has really been in the plan
Yes.
for a period of time. It's already in there, isn't it? Yeah. That's all right.
And all the pipelines are committed. Yeah, we let tenders from more than a year ago for a lot of that work, and it's just, you know, it's the pipeline of work coming through. Excuse the pun.
And so of that, what proportion perhaps would be Three Waters assets?
Oh, sorry, I don't know.
Ballpark, 100?
Oh, we,
No.
no, moving
Oh,
forward.
well, see, we have a lot of debt on sewer at the moment, right, without a lot of spend, because that's historical and we're all getting the benefit as future users of the sewer system. I would imagine we would end up with 100 million of debt in the Three Waters space by the end of next financial year, because a lot of our spend will be, none will be at least 100, if not 120, say.
Oh, that's all
It's not through you, your worship, in terms of scale, that's the kind of number you're looking at. Might move around a bit, but that would be that scale of that number. With what's already there and what's proposed to be spent, because it's not just, there's also to be spent in areas like stormwater as well.
Yeah.
Councillor Billington.
No one likes paying rates, that's quite clear, but if we want a vibrant community, we've just got to move forward. I think we're doing some good things here, some visible things, you know, stadium, a theatre, an art gallery, people, an Avery for Paddy. You know, we've got some good things happening, so I just think we need to get on with it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. We'll get to that in a moment. Just want to make sure everything's no one's held back. A bit quiet over that side. You're all comfortable with where we're heading? Okay, cool. Oh, sorry, Councillor Lyon.
No, thank you, Richard. It's just that, and quite simply, I agree with Councillor Whittington's view. And quite simply, we have made a firm commitment to 4.9 from here on in. And we're challenged to to deliver on that from here on in. So we are signaling to the community, this is this year and looking out. This is not how it will be. This is a once-er. And we're committed to 4.9, and we'll have some hard decisions to make again as the next year or two go along. So this is a consequence potentially of the COVID and the things we did. So and so we've got to signal to our community this is a toughie, but we just have to be very firm and committed to what we have proposed in the future to be fair to our community in the future, so they don't feel we have been cavalier, and we're not being cavalier this time at all. We're not being cavalier at all.
You mean 11.5?
Yes, 11.5. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, but no, 4.9 is in the sites. Here on that. Yeah, that's what I'm really trying to say.
Deliberation, yeah. Yeah. Well, no, that's cool. Yeah, no, that's right. Okay, cool. So just to be clear, Mark, just a question from me to you. It's really just 2 on 7.14 as far as final rate, as far as recommendation, is that correct? I think there's something we might have to pick back up somewhere else, but.
Yeah, I think it's just confirming the rates approach, and I guess confirming your decisions that you've worked out last week.
Cool.
And we'll go away and prepare the final document.
And with recommendation 1, we did pass that, didn't
Yes,
we?
you did.
We did, okay. So it's just recommendation 2 on 222. So everyone comfortable with that? We're going to move the rate increase. And so we'll just read that out. Consider the impact of changes from the submissions against the existing draft LTP budget, acknowledging that there will be a need to increase rates by a slight margin should council wish to approve some or all of the options presented in the deliberation report. So key things are those extra things we considered plus what funding. So we're going to move it for that. Councillor Booth, happy to move that. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Burt. Any further discussion? No, put the motion to, sorry. Ooh, nearly got there. Yes.
There is one small thing you will need to do in terms of amending our financial strategy, because that does set out a 10.5 increase for year 1.
Okay.
Consequential amendment.
So it'll be number 3, which means we're going to adjust the financial strategy to account for the other decision.
Okay, cool. So Councillor Booth, are you comfortable with that? Yeah, so we need to amend the financial strategy. There'll be 0.3. Councillor Burt, are you comfortable with that? Okay, cool. Any further discussion? No, put the motion back to the floor. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Cool, thanks, Sam. Oh, yes. Yeah,
Your worship,
yes.
may we discuss for a moment
Yes.
process from here?
Yes, you may. Yep. That would be
So
beneficial.
my colleagues here have got some more work to do, and we'll do that together. Auditor here next week. They've confirmed today that they're coming again, and so they will be in house for another couple of weeks, going through all the decisions and making sure that all the documentation is fit for purpose. And then we come back into the chamber on the 29th, which is 3 weeks today, to make a formal resolution to strike the rates and all that process stuff that comes out of here.
Yeah.
And we would have to say that to get to the 29th, these decisions now are basically locked in for the 29th, because we don't have any more time to make any more adjustments. And that's where we're up to.
It's pretty
Is there
tight.
anything you want to add to that? No, you're all good with that?
Well covered.
All right.
That's cool. So just before we wrap this up, we do need to move to the public excluded for that urgent item, just to for audit and risk that came through. So from me, thank you. A lot of work, and I know some of you have worked over the long weekend again to get this to a point where it needs to be. So yeah, lots of hard work, and we really appreciate it from the elected members. Thank you. Sorry.